Hey everybody, happy to be here today with Gabe Rudolph of Gestura, and it all started with this spoon, and really curious to hear the Gestura story today, and also find out what's been cooking, what's new.
Yeah. So, I've started cooking here in San Francisco years ago. Did that for a while and started to get into design, specifically architecture. I don't even honestly remember why. But that led me into getting interested in product design. And so I started thinking about what could I design in a kitchen setting that was new and interesting, but also provided utility for all the cooks that I knew and worked with. So this sort of idea was born. Yeah.
And you were a spoon hoarder, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think Stuart Brioza, my boss at the Progress, had sort of asked me, have you ever been to Cookin' on Divisadero? And I said, no. And so I went on my day off, and I think that was the spark. That place just blew my mind. And she had spoon. I said, do you have any spoons? And she just sort of like reached into this giant bin, and it was just like Lady Hamilton's and old Donata stuff and European sterling silver stuff. And so that was like a habit that on my days off I'd go to Cookin' and chat with her and pick up new weird spoons. And so, yeah, exactly. I turned into a spoon hoarder.
And so, like, each one had its kind of favorite use, right? Like,
Totally.
There was the one that was, like, really good for getting into the corners of the camera, like...
Exactly. Yeah, so there would be random... Like, the Lady Hamiltons were perfect for pouring sauce because they had this pointed tip, which a lot of people have messaged me and said, like, I see the Lady Hamilton profile in this, which is totally true. I mean, that was one of the big inspirations. And then there'd be an old European soup spoon that had this big bowl that held liquid really well, or one that was back heavy that was really great for stirring. And so I just sort of started to compile all of these different characteristics for spoons that I loved. So yeah, it's like, just a lot of data input.
And so I think up to that point, like the Kunst spoon would have been the kind of like the spoon that everybody had in their knife roll, right?
Totally.
And this one looks a lot different from that.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't talk about cooking spoons without talking about the Kunst spoon. I think it's an industry standard. I think I've heard people refer to it as like the F-150 of
yeah, that's right.
of cooking tools. It's just ubiquitous, and it's an incredible, almost perfect all-purpose tool that was created by a chef for his cooks.
Yeah.
And so this idea wouldn't have been possible without the legacy of Grey Kunst and the Kunst spoon, and it was the jumping off point to even start a company like this, which is, I think cooks should design for themselves instead of relying on like legacy manufacturers that are just sort of churning stuff out without much interest or conversation with contemporary cooks, or that maybe cooks want unique things, interesting things, or into design, or...
Most cooks also don't have one knife either, right?
Exactly, and that's exactly right. Like, I also wouldn't be here without you guys and seeing how much cooks care about Japanese knives and how much money we all spend on these knives. I thought, man, this is like, there are people out there that really care about their cutting tools, so there must be other things that they're interested in, you know?
Right. So the first one was this model, and it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
What year was it that came out?
2021 came out, and I had somehow sort of managed to talk my way into working with a manufacturer in Germany, only because it was the middle of the pandemic and they had no work, and they just said, fuck it, okay, like we'll do super low minimum order for you and bust out these things that are really hard to make and no one wanted to make them. And so I got lucky. And then that was the first run, and I started wanting to make changes and I was asking more of them. Mm-hmm. And they just said, like, we don't want to do this for you anymore. They almost did it as a mid-pandemic favor to get some cash. And so I decided that I wanted to go to Japan and find flatware manufacturer there, which it turns out there's a ton of really amazing places, as you know.
Yeah. So the first spoon was this design. Well, this one's been tweaked a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But what were the all-star hits of this one in terms of utility?
Yeah. So you mean inspirations?
The inspirations, or and then also what characteristics, what were you after for? Because this is it's a leading question because I know some of these, but yeah. I'm sure I'll pick up a few new ones from you today too. But the shape of the tip to be able to get into the corner of Cambros.
Yeah.
The fact that it is one level tablespoon.
Yeah. Yeah. So a big thing for me with the old spoon collection that I had was that it was often I found myself wishing that there was a consistent measure inside of the bowl. So I thought, why not just make it a single tablespoon? So especially in a professional kitchen, you sort of want consistency. You think, I added a tablespoon of lemon juice yesterday. If I want consistency, instead of reaching for a scale or the crazy jangly baby toy tablespoon thing, you just say, I was using this yesterday, do the same thing in the bowl, and it's almost like an invisible scale that you have. And then these sort of wings here were really important to me to hold all of the liquid almost like a cradle, because sometimes going from pan to plate, you would have liquid that spilled out in a more flat bowl. Mm-hmm. So this was this egg-shaped bowl that could hold liquid, and then it would slide out really easily. So a lot of the early prototypes, I would just be sitting over a sink with water going, does it drip? Is it easy to stop? Like that. And I think, thankfully, a lot of people, that was important to me, and it ended up being really important to a lot of people that you could have this almost start-stop mechanism with the pointed tip. And then really, really thin, I don't know, maybe I'd call them rails. That's kind of surfboard design, but these thin rails on the outside that could scoop and scrape really easily is not something that I found that was also a really important characteristic for me. And it was really hard for the manufacturers to do. Mm-hmm. Because last thing, because a lot of the vintage flatware that I was into was cast. Yeah. And so what I'm doing with these is asking modern manufacturer to stamp and run these spoons on a lathe to make it look like they've been cast, but they've been stamped. Which they definitely don't like me a whole lot for asking them to do that.
Can't you just get a regular spoon? Yeah. We've gotten really awesome feedback from cooks that have been using them, and we're so excited to pick these up when they first came out. The one thing, we'll find vintage spoons and for every 100 of these, I mean, not this exactly, but, this general length, general bowl size vintage spoon, there might be 5 slotted ones. And whenever we get a new batch of spoons in, there's always people that kind of come in, where it gets out, there's new spoons. And there's always people I could tell are kind of trying to keep their cool, can I see your spoons? And they're like looking for the slotted spoon. So
that was me.
I was really stoked to see this one come out as the second iteration. What do you think, like, from a utilitarian standpoint, like, where does this guy come in?
I think just like continuity perspective, it's really nice just to not have to switch to a different tool when you're using something slotted. I think when we think of slotted spoons, they're often like the big, bulky pasta slotted spoons, or like a spider or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the idea that, you could just have the same profile, same weight, and everything, but just it would provide your slotted spoon needs, like plating gnocchi or dumplings or steamed, like poached vegetables or something like that. And you didn't have to switch. It's all in that, idea of continuity, from the measurement to the weight of the tool, that, you can just focus on cooking.
Yeah. And I like that they also like fit right next to each other, like, so they take up less space.
Yeah. And
this is a cool addition.
Yeah, so that just comes from, in professional kitchens, you have these sort of tall steel canisters that cooks keep their tools in. And you often have a regular spoon and a slotted spoon, and there are times when you're busy where you want to grab the slotted spoon and you grab the regular spoon, and vice versa. And so, yeah, just a simple solution to sort of communicate. Yeah, exactly.
That's the kind of thing that just doesn't crop up on tools that aren't made for their intended use, And needs must is cool, and like finding things that work and kind of work around. Sometimes there's great discoveries there, but then there's also like just the actual application and like, how does this get used? And like, I grab that thing twice every time.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, totally. I mean, that's the amazing thing about being on Instagram and having a close connection to all of these cooks, is that they're constantly folks messaging me. And I mean, like, I don't think I would have come up with that without having conversations with other cooks. And that's just like, that's what it's all about for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the gold.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the gold.
Yeah. I was doing a sort of brushed, more of a tumbled gold before, and when I switched manufacturers to Japan, they asked if I wanted to do it like gold plated, like a watch, like a Seiko watch or something like that. And I said, hell yeah, we gotta do that. It's shiny, and it maybe makes me imagine what a vintage tool might have looked like when it was still in production. You often get tarnished.
Oh,
ones.
yeah. So silver, the old silver plate spoons, they're wonderful. We love them, but sometimes they impart flavors, right?
Right.
Sometimes they sit in salsa at my house, and then they always taste like salsa. And my kids hate me because they're eating cereal with a spoon that he has. So, am I imagining things, or is there a difference when it comes to flavor transference or the lack thereof with gold and the steel? Is it possible to have the steel influence flavor if you're using this for tasting?
Yeah, no. So this is not. I mean, these are not silver plated.
No.
As like these are gold plated. So I would say, probably don't keep this in your salsa, but maybe keep this in your salsa.
Okay, so the stainless.
The stainless, correct. Yeah. Although I'm told that by plenty of people that there have been no problems, the gold plating is food safe and isn't sort of the old school way of doing it. This is like treated with a more, modern style of plating. So yeah, that's a good question.
But gold not tarnishing like silver and not being reactive.
Yeah. So I always tell people to hand wash and not let it sit in acidic foods and things like that.
Yeah, you wouldn't want the Scotch Brite going on this guy.
Right, exactly. Scotch Brite.
Screen scrubbing. Do it. All right. So
Yeah.
I know that you get asked for tons of other tools as well.
Yeah.
And like whenever we have like 4 knives and they're in like 4 different sizes, invariably there's somebody that's always like, oh, but do you have it like an inch wider, an inch
Yeah.
shorter, or whatever? And
painful.
and it's real, right? That can make a difference. But I know that there's a bunch of other tools that you guys have been asked for, and then you have a new one out.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, well, so the first part of the question is like, I think the ones that I get the most are demi-tasse.
Yeah.
And like a double the size of this for more large format stuff, which I think I would love to do that. And then Cannell, people really want Cannell spoons, which is, that's on the table.
Yeah.
But not a priority. But yeah, the demi-tasse and the Cannell are the ones that I get the most. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's going to be a whole other like engineering nightmare to do that. But large format, for sure, I really want to do like a maybe 02 to the 01 companion.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I wanted to chat about my second not a spoon project, which is sort of like mini tongs. I guess in the industry they call them tweezers. And yeah, should we take them out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. These are also made in Japan by a manufacturer that makes like fishbone tweezers that you use to remove pin bones. I worked with them specifically to try and get that same tension that you get with like great fishbone tweezers that come out of Japan that you guys sell here. And then I wanted them to have that feeling of those long Japanese cooking.
The morobashi.
Yeah. Exactly. So the material is welded super thick at the back, and then it tapers off thinner in the front, so you have a back-heavy feeling in your hand to give you more control, and then as it tapers, you have super precise, delicate tips on the front, and then these little finger placement marks here that also, lean on a bowl or a 9-pan or a cup or something like that.
Or even if you set it on the counter, it's not gonna. The tips aren't gonna get dirty, right?
Exactly. So these curves are like a protective mechanism against whatever you're flipping chicken in a pan, and then you put it down on the counter. These are going to be leveled off from the counter, which is super important to me because in commercial kitchens sometimes tweezers can get a little gross. You put them on the counter, and then you have to wipe them, and you have to wipe the counter. So these are, almost like a safety sanitation mechanism, which I guess also maybe we can talk about the teeth on the grips, which was a bit of a headache to do with the manufacturer because they already had stamps made for teeth, but we decided to make custom dies to make these teeth the serrations just a little bit wider, so it's easier for cooks to clean. Like, let's say I've spoken to cooks who do a lot of noodles, and the dough gets sort of wedged inside of the serrations.
Yeah.
So with these, they'll be super easy to clean, so you don't have like gross old serrations after a year of using them. So I'm really stoked about that. I'm really happy. Little details like that are what are the most satisfying.
Yeah, I hear that from cooks a lot about tweezers and that little spot, and then also we see the knife rolls too. So we don't judge, but we see the knife rolls. Yeah. So this is out today, right? You just launched these on your website?
Yeah, just launched them on my website, and I'm just so excited. I mean, I'm kind of living my dream right now as a person who loves cooking tools. I get to make them myself, and put my own little stamp on our corner of the world here. So yeah, I'm just so excited and grateful for you guys. Yeah, Bernal was my first customer, and I've been coming to you guys since you were on 18th and Guerrero. So
it's rad to see your success. So it's I knew that you had a good product here, but it's been really outstanding seeing them do so well, and to see them get like really readily taken up by a bunch of shops and get out there in the kitchens and get them used. And then
yeah, so
congratulations.
Cool. Thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for coming by today.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Check out our fabulous selection of Gestura spoons and now tweezers on our website, bernalcutlery.com. Also check out Gestura's website too. Yeah. Find out a little bit more. All right. Thanks so much.